Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today is Outbreak Day. And we got some more information from journalists who were able to go and play a few hours of The Last of Us Part 2. So I went through a few different articles that are online, reading from their experience, and I highlighted some of the more interesting tidbits to give us a better look or a better idea of how the game will feel. Obviously, there's not a lot of story stuff there, but there's a few story tidbits that actually shows the trailer is messing around with the timeline a little bit. We will likely discuss or go into more detail about that stuff in the video coming behind this one, which is breaking down the trailer. I think that'll fit perfectly since they did reveal some story stuff that really does confirm some things, and it explains some things a little clearly from what was in the trailer. Now, diving into this, one of the first things I love hearing about a sequel game, and this was in a few articles, is that it feels and plays just like The Last of Us 1. Obviously, with a smoother polish, better graphics, tweaked crafting and all that, but it feels and plays just like part 1, and I love that. I hate when sequels try to change so much it loses some of the charm of the original game. Now, about the world and the levels, this is actually coming from Neil Druckmann. He said, "We can make environments that are really large, but just because we can do it doesn't mean we should make an open world game if it doesn't fit the story. If you're trying to tell a story that has a lot of tension, open worlds can actually work against you." Now, I fully agree with him here. I had a tremendous amount of fun with Days Gone, but there's just such a difference to what you get from The Last of Us versus Days Gone. Days Gone has this different type of exploration feel to it. Now, we could discuss that in more detail in a different video, but I just want to say I definitely see what he's saying here, and I 100% agree with him. I love that Last of Us has bigger levels, but it essentially follows you down a path. Now, back to some of the journalists who played The Last of Us Part 2. They said the world feels bigger, offering more routes and ways to avoid detection and sneak up on your foe. There's a point A and a point B that you need to get to, but how you make it there is totally up to you. This guy was weaving through overgrown yards and up the stairs of family homes, with rats squealing and scattering as he checked the cupboards for ammo and resources, with the barks of tracker dogs never far behind. That sounds really friggin' cool. It sounds atmospheric, and that's right up my alley. Next up, fights. The Last of Us Part 2 has more open combat scenarios, and it now feels more dynamic with a greater variety of weapons and ways to approach any one obstacle. Environments are larger, with multiple story buildings that add a sense of verticality to the fights. Oh man, that sounds like so much fun. Guns. Ellie has access to a pistol, shotgun, rifle, and a bow. There's added depth to stealth play. You can hide in tall grass, picking off enemies with a pistol outfitted with a DIY silencer or Ellie's bow and arrow, the latter of which can be replenished with ammo so long as you lodge the arrow tip through a human skull for easy removal. You can lure enemies in with explosive tripwires as well, tripwire traps. And there's a jump button. Now, Ellie is smaller and weaker than Joel, but she's more agile, people say, and she now has a dedicated jump button, which makes certain aspects of the gameplay a lot more thrilling and versatile. Ellie can hop fences, she can jump on top of cars to reach upper floors of houses, and generally moves around with more ease than Joel ever could. And there's a dodge button, Ellie's new dodge button. Bam! Now when a clicker gets a hold of you, you're probably gonna die. But with other infected enemy types like runners or human enemies, the simple act of dodging makes for many more tense, close calls. Having more flexibility in battle makes for more interesting encounters. I friggin' love the sound of that, and we saw that in the trailer. Bam! On to crafting. This time around you can find pills, well, you could find pills last time. Anyway, and spend them on ability upgrades spread across 3 trees. Abilities included increased listening mode movement speed, increased throw distance, increased health kit usage speed, and toward the top of the stealth focus tree, craftable silencers that could be applied to guns and improved. Also, various attachments and improvements for guns. I will say there looks to be a neat little Walking Dead reference in the game. Now, pulling this from one article, it says, but every article mentioned this particular spot, but I just want to read the one. The level ended with Ellie and Dina discovering Eugene's secret underground weed den, left to fall into disrepair after his passing. It was a surprising moment, sprinkled with levity. I came across a gas mask, crucial for avoiding infection, with a bong attached. God, quipped Dina, Eugene was so smart. In the Walking Dead comic, Eugene is one of the smartest characters. There's no way that's just a coincidence. You know what I'm saying? That had to have been a Walking Dead reference. Anyway, next up, Tommy and the WLF, and I think this is surprising and probably a little telling. Now, if you look on paper, WLF, what does it look like? It looks like Wolf. In one of the gameplay reveal trailers, one of the girls did yell out, Wolf. Maybe Ellie either gets up with this gang or the cult, let's call them, the cult confuses her with one of the people in the WLF, which, I mean, maybe it's not Wolf, but looking at it, it looks like, you know what I mean? Anyway, Ellie was in the overgrown, eternally overcast ruins of Seattle, Washington, surrounded by derelict saloons, tattoo parlors, and coffee shops. She was looking for Tommy, who was seemingly in conflict with a local faction, the xenophobic Washington Liberation Front. Again, WLF. Naughty Dog calls the new system analog stealth, meaning you're never truly safe unless you are completely hidden from view. Ellie can crouch, take cover in tall grass or behind boxes and cars, and she can also lay prone on the ground, shuffling around with minimal notice. But even when Ellie's on her stomach, if an enemy walks up to you, you're gonna get noticed. Now, scent. Most of the WLF members had dogs, and these dogs could track your scent. Going into listening mode allowed you to see your scent. One comment said, I had to be stealthy, but I also had to move, because if you stay in one place for too long, the dogs will eventually lock onto your scent. Now that seems interesting. That seems like a real balance to keep players from going really slow with the stealth attacks, meaning you can go slow with the stealth attacks, but if you don't get it moving, the dogs are going to get you. Now, in one of the most surprising moments of the demo, I quietly dispatched someone while their dog was distracted. Upon noticing, the dog proceeded to nudge this person's arm, then pull on it, and then mournfully whimper. Oh man, that sounds friggin' hard. That adds another level to the atmosphere and the gameplay and the immersion. I like the sound of that. They continue. It's a startling, subtle effect at first. As I killed a woman scavenging, one of her compatriots stumbled upon her later and yelled in anguish. It only stoked his anger and determination to find me, and they also called out locations to one another. A sound over here or a rustle of movement over there, meaning enemies can flank you with relative ease if you stay still for too long. In one particularly deadly stretch of street, I found myself boxed in. The only way out required the most silent movement I could manage. That sounds pretty tight. Now Joel. Joel is in the demo, and again, this is one of the things that confirms Joel is in the trailer, and guess what? They weren't messing with us. That is him grabbing Ellie at the end. We could confirm that in my trailer breakdown. You guys will see it next. You can actually see the side of Joel's face when he grabs Ellie, so immediately it confirms that is Joel grabbing Ellie, not someone else like Tommy. Anyway, the demo ended with Ellie dropping down into another portion of the level, only for some mysterious pair of meaty dad arms to pull her aside. This is what we saw in the trailer. This was the end of the demo, actually. That's friggin' tight. Druckmann does share that this character plays a significant part in the storyline. That basically kills the rumors that Joel will only be in it for a really tiny bit of the story and then die off. But notes that his relationship with Ellie is strained. The weight of the events, the choices made in the first game are coming into the second game. Obviously, Joel is still very capable. This guy has survived for many, many years in this brutal world. How that plays out, we'll have to wait and see. And that's what Neil Druckmann said. Now, who lives and who dies? When asked, Druckmann is, obviously cryptic. It says, no one is protected because of who they are. The decisions we make are for what's best for the story. Who lives, who dies, that's too much of a spoiler. I'll just say that it's a crazy, harrowing ride, and not everyone comes out okay on the other side. There's also mention of a Shambler. I want to go back to Who Lives and Who Dies real quick, but there's a mention of a Shambler, which is a new monster. It's a hulking Shambler, a fungal mess of upper body mass. Now, I thought that was what we might have seen in the trailer, but I also thought what we saw in the trailer was a bloater. Back to Who Lives and Dies, I just want to point this out. Yeah, that sounds like he could be talking about Joel. No one lives, no one's protected because of who they are. But it also kind of sounds like he's talking about Dina. A lot of these psychos on the internet talk about, oh, you can't kill gay characters because Hollywood always kills gay characters. Gay characters can't have happy lives because there's, Hollywood's always putting them through the ringer and blah, 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 blah. Which is some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard, because straight characters get brutalized all the time. Why? Because brutality is interesting for the most part when it comes to dark stories. So yeah, no shit. Gay characters gonna die. Straight characters die. Smart characters die. Stupid characters die. Guess what? Shut up. You know what I'm saying? Such a stupid shit to say. Anyway, so it kind of sounds like Neil Druckmann knows, because I think he's a SJW, right? People in his circle are usually a little touched and easy to freak out. So maybe he's kind of preparing them like, listen, chill. Dina might get killed. It's looking heavily like they're hinting that, which I'm starting to doubt now, because I feel like going into The Last of Us Part 2 and then killing off her budding love interest, and then at the end of the game killing off Joel, I think that's a bit much, and I can't see what that does for the story. Now, everyone's wondering what the new buff girl is going to be. Now, I don't think that's Ellie's daughter. I don't think that's Ellie's mother. I think some of those theories are borderline ridiculous, because they're dealing with the same cult that Ellie is dealing with. And, there's no way that cult has been around for 20-some years. They're not that bad of writers to have the same cult around for 20. Even if they do, I'm not going to buy that stupid shit. That's so dumb. So, let's just say Dina was going to die in the beginning and Joel's going to die at the end. Then that makes sense to have Ellie find some type of connection, whether it is any type of close bond, romantic or otherwise, with this new girl that is a bulking beast of a bitch. You know what I'm saying? So, and that might explain her part in the story if she, buddies up with Ellie later on in the game. Because again, that's one part of the story that seems like it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it might help to explain why this game is, the biggest they've ever done. Anyway, I'm going to get to work on the trailer breakdown. Give me your thoughts and opinions. This sounds freaking fantastic. I think Last of Us will not let us down. The only thing left to let us down would be the story, to be honest. When it comes to the gameplay and the environment, I'm not worried about a thing. I know I'm already going to go into this and love it. It's just the story at this point. That is the only thing. We have to wait and see. Thoughts and opinions in the comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn.